Good morning, all. How are you doing today? Good. David, since I have to do the presentation, David will answer all difficult questions at the conclusion. I had the great pleasure of leading this task force. And I also have the great pleasure of advancing the slides. I know when Dr. Nolan called me about this, I was somewhat overwhelmed with the task. Why? Because it was so diverse. We're talking about philanthropy. We're talking about Valley Brook, the iLab. What are we going to be doing with these? New ways of supporting the university using a private school model. Our charge is very, very diverse if you take a look at it. But, as they said in that classic Jerry Maguire, this is all about show me the money. Alrighty? And why are we going to be going first? Because so much of what you're going to be talking about in subsequent presentations is about the adequacy. We have to consider the adequacy of our financial resources to determine its economic feasibility. And we're going to be coming forward with some proposals we feel could generate additional resources for the university. You hear that David and I have effectively chaired this group, but we have many others working on it, about 15 in number. Their names are shown in the documentation that you've received, but they were drawn from across campus, both from the health sciences side as well as the academic affairs, from faculty and staff. And then we also had a large component of community members who had a very, very strong interest in this particular topic. How did we begin? Because of the diversity of the group and because of the diversity of the topic, we started out in October talking about scope. How big is our bread box, if you will? What are we supposed to be doing? And at that first meeting, we decided, let's not meet solely as one group throughout October. Let's break up to smaller groups where we have both expertise and interest. And throughout October, each group met 3 to 4 times to develop a group of ideas, our process of divergence. October, we came back together in a convergence process to look at what commonalities did we have in ideas. And it was amazing. Although we had 3 groups working independently, there was a great deal, let us say, of common themes that were woven through our various recommendations. In November, we brought it back together and developed the report that you see in front of you. All members of the committee have reviewed the report, and we have arrived at consensus. Come along, baby. There we go. Before I want to begin talking about the various vision statements, I want to talk about something called a theme. Because in every group, it bubbled to the surface, if you will. That theme is, as we say, bring campus to community and community to campus. It's all about developing partnerships. But a partnership has to be beneficial. It has to be beneficial to both parties involved. The service we deliver has to be beneficial to our students because they can find jobs, beneficial to area employers because they can hire a skilled workforce, if you will. Our employers, our businesses in the local area have to see benefit from the university in our research programs, in our outreach endeavors. So resources can be forthcoming from the community, but the community has to realize benefit from the university. That's the only way it can indeed work. That was our overriding theme. We developed 4 visions. The first is to become a significant player in the regional economy, just not in terms of higher education, but fixed assets as well. To look at the alignment of our programming with the community. We've done an excellent job in the health sciences area. Some 30,000 jobs in our region are located in that vertical. But 29,000 jobs are in the manufacturing vertical. Really, really close. So have we really approached all of the sectors represented in the local area economy? Scott with logistics. energy, nuclear fuels, alpha natural resources, chemical and chemical-related products. These are supposed to be, in Tennessee, where we have a competitive advantage. Are we, as a university, capitalizing upon that competitive advantage? Secondly, how are we working with members of the community in better investing in our fixed assets? We came away with a basic premise. The centrality of the asset to the mission of the university should determine the nature of its ownership. Meaning, if it's related to teaching, research, or service, let's own it. But there are assets that are less central to our purpose. Let's think of different ways of financing it. Leasing, rental, condoing, if you will. These are definitely more appropriate. For our owned assets, let's turn it around. How can we use these to generate resources? We're thinking about across the ways, a performing arts center. Let's build it big enough to house various community theaters, symphonies, again, to generate both goodwill as well as additional resources for the university. The second one, perhaps David and I just couldn't pass it up. We're both accountants by training. But with this, it talks about looking at both the revenues and the expenses of our academic programming. First, make sure all of our academic programs are closely aligned with the purpose of the university. Second, set up a responsibility-centered management approach. Well, that was a new term for me. When I went through school, it was called profit center accounting. Determine what the revenues are with a given degree program, and as well as what are the direct and indirect costs. Determine if the program is financially valuable, and not all of them will be financially viable, but those programs must indeed align with the purposes of the enterprise. Grow new programs also. This is not to say we're going to stay static. Easiest way to generate in the short term additional resources is to control expenses. In the longer term, we have to think about having additional revenue by growing new programs. But we don't want to forget, look at satellite locations, look at online as well as hybrid delivery, not being constrained just to the campus. What are we talking? In the longer term, think of a different pricing model. We are less competitive than we might be regionally because of the cost of out-of-state tuition. Let's think about it. Should we have a difference between out-of-state and in-state? Should we price our programs with the market? Who are our competitors? What are they charging? Try to relieve some of the restrictions that are imposed by the state of Tennessee in this regard. Third, develop a culture of philanthropy. I had the pleasure of having some dialogue with the consultants. So we did not assume that role, but we wanted to look forward. How could we do it better? First and foremost, educate people as to the purpose of philanthropy. It's no longer a margin of excellence. We're talking about philanthropy as a necessity to maintain our position in the area. First of all, education of our students, faculty, and staff to the importance of giving. Secondly, looking at the infrastructure. How is our staffing? Is the staff appropriate? Are they located in appropriate positions? What about the data resources, which we are very, very dependent upon? Are they of good quality? Are our strategic priorities and our fundraising priorities appropriately aligned? We should also think about collaboration and coordination of various units on campus. They might be university advancement, university relations, government relations, BASA, foundation. Get them all talking to one another so we can move forward. Finally, engage people. It's more than just the president, university advancement. Every VP, every dean, every program director, every friend in the community is a potential fundraiser, and they should be acting as such. Our fourth vision, is to become a preeminent center of research and scholarship. This is indeed a long-term vision. In the short run, raise visibility of research on campus. Reorganize to some degree to put the Vice President for Research and Sponsored Programs reporting directly to the President. Heighten its visibility. Develop centers. Now, centers don't have to be physical. It's trying to align people together who have common research interests. In the long term, truly improve our infrastructure. Look to Purdue as a model. They bring people who are sharing research interests from across campus into one physical location. That is where you're going to achieve real synergy. You've heard our 4 visions. You've heard about our theme. I think we make an excellent case of how we can better our university, how we can draw resources from our existing programs, how we can be better able to use our resources as they now stand. And I think we have concluded, and within time?
Very good.
Wonderful. Now it's David's turn for all the tough questions.
Okay, questions now. These are the 4 sort of visionary sort of themes that are being suggested here. As Dr. Nolan sort of mentioned to us last night, part of our opportunity as a group and part of your opportunity as external advisors is to sort of push us a little bit. A piece of that is, are we asking tough enough questions? Are we being bold enough in terms of what we're presenting here? So this is the opportunity to ask Dr. Garceau a little bit about the process, about some more specific information related to these. Some opportunities here for interconnectivity, activities that are going on across the campus and task forces, but this is the opportunity to start that process. And like she said, she's going to direct these questions to David, so David's going to be prepared. Okay, so who'd like to go first?
I'd like to ask you, when you think about bringing the campus to the community, what do you think would be the group to put that off? Is that the alumni, because I was a part of alumni, or is it professors on campus who want to get involved in the community and volunteering and bringing that piece? Because when you volunteer in your community, it's going to bring focus on ETSU. But I just wonder how you're going to bring the campus to the community.
We're using community in the broadest of sense. For example, yes, if they're Dr. King right next to you, we can talk about a virtual community in online learning as such, to bring it closer to individuals such as those in Mountain City or rural West Virginia or rural Virginia, providing them with excellent access to excellent education. That's one aspect of it. 2, let's talk about research. All righty. It did get our attention when Eastman Chemical gave a $10 million gift to NC State. That really perked us up a good deal. But why? It's because they see value coming out of NC State in the area of chemistry. We have often looked at our research as being funded by National Science Foundation and NIH. Well, what about looking at research, more pragmatic research, being funded by employers? I had the opportunity to speak with a director at Eastman about this whole project, and he said, we had a workshop. The NC State faculty came up, the Eastman management came up. We pitched ideas. And now some of the NC State faculty are working on business problems that he has here in Kingsport. We want to take advantage of that. Yes, service is also an important role. We look at what we're doing in our local community. We've been always very attached to our service initiatives, be it in Unicoi. I think Dr. Bishop's very active in RAM, correct? Regional Access, help me, what's the last M? Medical, thank you. Rural area medical. But that's part of who we are in the commitment we make to the area. But everything in this, I hate to say, comes with a price. We also need the community saying, you're doing the right things. We need your support.
Just what I would have said.
Thank you, David. You approve. I am glad. Yes, David.
But it seems to me like one of the challenges is to merge sort of institutional thinking with entrepreneurial thinking. How did you all kind of approach that? Because I think that's the way to merge business and education.
How do you do that?
I think each of us has to look at ourselves as product managers. Alrighty? I will tell you, by making me financially responsible for a program, as Larry is, I'm financially responsible for my accelerated MBA. Boy, do I pay attention to the pricing of it, to the marketing of it, to the costing of it. I have discussions with the faculty when they buy books that cost per person $450, because it is resources that I use to better my college. I think that is part of a shift in mentality, a shift in ownership. It goes along with fundraising. I think we all have to put a higher priority to fundraising across the board. It's becoming, I know you do, we've sat together in BASA meetings, but I think each and every person across the institution has to develop a sense of ownership for what they are doing and the business that they are operating. But in turn, when I go back to my accounting roots, we need accounting information that gives us an idea. I can tell you how much my accelerated MBA costs. I can tell you how much it makes, because it is a responsibility-centered management approach. I think this should be pervasive. Yes, Dr. Nix.
Number 3.
Yes, sir.
Developing a culture of philanthropy. Does that mean there is not a culture here now?
We look at only 4% of our alumni give. I was speaking to a friend. I laughingly joke with my husband that he's buying his way into heaven. He even gives to his Catholic grade school. But I end up, we have a lot of rosaries. We have a whole case of rosaries. Little plastic jobbers. But with that in mind, I was talking to a friend who was associated with a Christian school. And I said, 4%, we should be doing better. She said when she and her husband took over that Christian school, only 4% of our alumni were giving. But it is a process of education which begins with our students to say, it's not a margin of excellence any longer. This is making sure we are adequately resourced within our institution. We don't expect you to start now, but as you leave, we expect that. In turn, the time to ask for a substantial gift to the university is not when we read about it in the paper that an individual owns a multi-million-dollar company. It should begin the day after graduation, and then we should grow this sense of giving. That's where we were coming from. I'm afraid we don't educate well enough, and we do not have continuous outreach. Our data is not as good as it might be. Yes.
You just anticipated my question there. How good is your database? When have you updated it? And how often do you mine your database? Talk about the students, that's longer term. It's a great thing to do, and it'll pay off over years. But for the immediate,
I'm going to dodge that question. We've had, and because we purposely said, let's look forward. We did not want to engage in an audit of university advancement or a review of university advancement, which is currently ongoing. I would actually defer to the president. Is that going to be shared with this group at some point in time, do you believe?
So yes, the response to the question is we have, not only within university advancement, but in a variety of areas across the campus, external consultants above and beyond the resources of NAPA that are looking at areas in depth. So consultants who are assisting us with an examination of advancement in alumni, consultants who are assisting us with strategic budgeting. But within the examination of advancement in alumni, we'll have a sense of not only the availability of data, the accuracy of data, and the use of data within a report that we should receive from Alexander Haas and Associates in mid-January. Once that report is received, it's one of the items that we'll share with the Committee for 125 at the next meeting of the group. At this point, my assumption is the information is not all that it could or should be, but we'll have a better sense of that in about a month than we do at the present date.
Questions?
The pricing, I'm all for, we're going to have a new pricing model in higher education one way or the other at some point. I'm uncertain as to how much flexibility we have in the state in terms of pricings, but if we have flexibility, use it. If we don't, maybe we can help try to lead some change out of Nashville. Secondly, the recruitment, there's an emphasis on recruitment. Retention, I guess I would argue, is as big a problem or as recruitment. And recruiting new students internationally, in my view, is not as important as retaining students locally in terms of I'm not against recruiting internationally, but we're to rob banks because that's where the money is. Well, the students, at least for the short term, can put our arms around them.
Yes.
And retaining them.
We spent a great deal of time discussing this relative, and it's an issue relative to preparation of students. There are bright students everywhere, but some are better prepared than others, number one. Two, we had a very lengthy conversation relative to brand. I will tell you, I feel in my heart of hearts, it's important to graduate well-qualified students. With that being said, we have some questions. Number one, do those students at the outset that have maybe are not as prepared as they might, do they belong first at a four-year university? Question number one. Should we then try to direct them to our technical colleges or our community colleges where they can get this necessary support as well as structure to ensure their success, and then set up a relationship where they can be transitioned at some future time to the university? Our issue is if we give up students, we also have to consider, we're enrollment driven, let us face that. We have to consider where to replace these students, where to go to replace these students. And that was a lengthy part of our conversation. It relates to the community, to the value. I will tell you, Scott will not remember the 10 great students I sent him. He'll remember definitely the one poor student he may have been sent. So we're almost disproportionately penalized, and we feel it very strongly. There was just a very lengthy conversation all about quality. And a lot to do with our school systems and how we approach that. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to sort of pick up on the pricing issue. I think you have to handle that very, very carefully. And because students, we've moved a lot of the cost of higher education onto students in the last 20 years. We're now seeing the results of that, incredibly high debt. Actually declines in enrollments. We're pushing the limits of tuition. So, the pricing really has to be consistent with the students you want to attract and serve in the region.
That is
and
why
it has to be of value. you know.
That is why
proposition
we
for them.
look at also what our competitors are charging. And you have to remember, I didn't say just revenue. I also talked about expense control. I think we have to have a better grasp of what are both our direct and indirect costs of education and manage those effectively. So I agree. It's problematic. It's a politically charged statement, but I think at a minimum we need better financial information to provide the basis for informed decisions. If we walk.
Can I ask
One
one
more.
question? Or
This is
we-
it. This is it. You got 30 seconds.
Pressure's on. It relates to centers of research. What are the target areas that your institution's really strong at that it could move forward with in terms of research?
Currently, we're very strong in the health sciences area. That was actually not addressed by the group. They recognize, you know, we can say we're strong in the health sciences, but what other fields? Do we have the capability? Do we have the personnel? And sometimes, if we have good personnel, as many schools have done, you literally buy that key person who can come and just push you ahead so much more than trying to build. It's a buy strategy, and that buy strategy pays off very successfully. You look at Georgia State, Georgia Tech, NC State, many very successful research-oriented schools went and targeted one or two key individuals to be at the center of those.
But right now it would be.
It would largely in the health sciences.
And you'll probably hear some different things throughout the other presentations as they relate to the health sciences, the academic side. So we'll get to that. So, Dr. Garceau, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.